Right. So we are now live. So apologies to anyone who is now watching this. Everyone is having to watch it on replay because it wouldn't let me stream to my group. So I'm recording it now because the lovely Hayley is busy and has clients. So she can't be messing around while I mess with tech. So
welcome to the world of working online.
I know it always happens when I'm last minute as well.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you are watching this, you have any questions, drop them in the comments, feed them. If I can't answer it, then I will source the answer back to Hayley anyway. So I will let Hayley introduce herself because she will do a better job than me, and we'll get cracking.
Yep. So any questions, just chuck them in, and then we can come back. And I'm happy to do another little live chat or anything with the questions on your Facebook if that helps.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm Hayley Bennett from Hayley Bennett Wellbeing, and today we're going to actually just chat about self-love, because I know it's a topic that a lot of people struggle with. So and yeah, and it just to me, when I originally first heard about self-love, I think I remember I was about 15 and I had an auntie and uncle that were into alternative things way before it was trendy. And I remember them saying to me at 15 that I had to love myself. And I remember like giggling away to myself, going like, I'm going to love myself. Because that was 32 years ago. So, 32 years ago, nobody talked about that. Adults didn't talk about that. Definitely teenagers didn't. I mean, it's amazing now that, a generation are now talking about stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's still a load of us that, see self-love as being selfish.
Yeah.
And actually feel quite guilty and things like that. So it's, a tricky one when people talk about it. It's, I don't think a lot of us really know where we stand with it. So, it's, and it isn't actually about saying, look at me, I'm wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people believe. I think people think, oh, if you've got self-love, then they're obviously a bit cocky, obviously a bit arrogant. And I think it gets that. Yeah. It's like the new connotation for the ego. Like people now think ego means you've got a big head, whereas it's just really your identity, isn't it? It's not actually a bad term.
No. And I think so you're either thinking, well, I don't want to be that brash and I'm not like that. Very much the English think the Americans are very much like that. So I don't want to be like that. There's that whole sort of different way of thinking where actually out there where I lived in Bermuda and had a lot of influence on there, it's actually just about being confident in who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
So they have very different outlook. Yeah. Where I think a lot of us here, like we said, we think it's selfish. And if we're doing something for ourselves, that's wrong. I can't put me first. I have to put the kids first, the husband, the parents, whatever you are, brothers, your sisters.
Yeah.
So it's, it's about finding that fine line. So how I see self-love, it actually is self-care. We have to love ourselves enough to give ourselves self-care.
Yeah.
And that's where I found it to really understand it. Because then you take away, you still have the guilt, but self-care is very different to them being in your ego, isn't it? So you take away that thing of being brash and, look at me, because we are all wonderful and amazing. We might not have to stand from the rooftops telling everyone how wonderful we are, but we are. So to me, self-love is making time and stopping and looking at ourselves. It's, really about stopping and looking at our body, our mind, and our lives, and then sort of asking ourselves, what do I need? how does my body feel today? What do I need to do? Do I need to do a bit of stretching because I'm aching, or do I feel quite malnourished and run down? Do I need to be eating something, a bit more, is my stomach playing up? Have I eaten too much junk, lately? And do I need to lay that off a bit? So it's been, it's about just staring at ourselves and looking at our mind of what's going on. Why am I thinking like that? What do I need to do? Am I feeling run down, overwhelmed? I'm feeling like I'm so busy. So it is about stopping and saying to ourselves, what do I need today?
And I think that's a question we don't ask very much, is it? What do I need? We might say to ourselves, what should I be doing? Or what do I have to do? And I don't think we often think about what do I need? Not what does everybody else need me to be? What does everybody else need me to do? What do I actually need? And I think I always used to struggle with that question because I didn't actually know the answer. Yeah. So I would think, what do I need? I'm like, I have no idea. I'll ask somebody.
Yeah. And because we don't, it's not a natural thing, is it? Stopping and looking and going, how do I feel today? It's not something we're brought up doing. You're brought up to be told to be busy and successful and a great mum and positive and always happy and, out there running a marathon. And, it's to actually stop and go, how do I feel today? Apart from feeling good, I'm knackered.
Yeah, that's every day. Yeah, that's a standard. I don't even think it anymore.
Yeah.
But it is really interesting, isn't it? And I think a lot of time with self-love as well, I think we just we think that if I have self-love, I have to be positive all the time. If I have self-love, it means that I think I'm amazing. I think every bit of me is not perfect, but we forget that self-love is that acceptance, isn't it? It's also that acceptance that I am not perfect and I am not very good at this. And you know what? Generally, I feel like that, and maybe I don't manage that very well. And that's about not. I think often we use that as a reason to dislike ourselves rather than sitting back and saying, okay, if I don't want to behave like that, or I don't want to feel that way, what do I need to do to help me to manage that? Or what do I need to do to help myself accept that? Yeah. We kind of use it as a bit of like, oh, that's another thing that's wrong with me. And we add it to our self-hate list instead, I think, sometimes.
Our self-love. And it is loving the good and the bad bits, Exactly. And that's what it's about. And when we have self-care, when we scan ourselves and our minds and our bodies and our things and our weaknesses and our strong points, we then accept it. And then, like you said, you were saying that perfectly, we see, I can't do that, and that's a bad thing. So I then don't deal with it because I don't want to face it, because then, or like you get that nagging voice, like you said, I'm no good, I'm really bad, and well, that's something else. But actually, if we sort of go, I can't do that, but if I go and get help doing it. So a really good example is like if you're running your business, isn't it? If your accounts aren't your strong point, it's easier to go and get an accountant to do it because it's not your strong point. You can either hold it and then beat yourself up that you're no good at it and you never get it done, and it becomes a bigger issue and then a whole negative cycle of it. Or you can do it. It's the same in life, isn't it? So we're no good at doing something, or we just, it's not something that we naturally do. If we ask for help or get help, life becomes easier. So
and it's interesting you that because I suppose actually when we do it with things like that, like practical things, I don't think we struggle as much with it. So if I go like me, I'm rubbish at anything to do with, I'm not rubbish at anything to do with numbers. I don't like it, and therefore I don't try very hard. That's what I mean.
That's the answer.
But I don't find it a weakness or that it makes me vulnerable to say you need to come and help me because you're better at that than me. But if it's about how we feel about ourselves, or how we manage stress or anger, we think that if we open up about that and we try and resolve that, that is showing weakness. We seem to see them very differently, don't we, I think?
Yeah, and the reason that actually happens is that we get gnats. I don't know if you've heard of gnats.
No, I've been called Nat a few times. But it's not about me.
No. Isn't it all about you? Isn't that what it's all about?
I thought so.
Yeah, that's what self-love is, isn't it? Gnats are actually negative automatic thoughts.
Right.
So exactly what you're saying. We go into a negative automatic thought, and they are negative thoughts that pop into our head unexpectedly. And then what it does is your thought drives an emotion.
Yeah.
So the emotion kicks in, I'm no good, the feeling of being abandoned, and, you know, all the fear, the anger, you know, all that stuff rears itself. And then we go into unhealthy behaviours.
Yeah.
Like you said, we beat ourselves up. So because we're in these gnats, as we call them, we're in this cycle, and we then can't do the self-care and the self-love because we've hit that cycle. But this negative